Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the R Lounge. What happens when your own home becomes a battleground and the person responsible for the turmoil is none other than your brother? Today in the R Lounge, sibling dynamics take a dark turn. Brother moved in with me and made my life a living hell until I threatened to report him. Have you ever felt like an outsider in your own house? Well, if yes, I can totally understand how that feels now, all thanks to my younger brother. I'm 28 female, a nurse in New York City. I'm here because I'm exhausted to an extent where I can't even decide what is right and wrong. I was happily living my life until my younger brother, Mike, 27 male, showed up at my house and said he was here for the weekend. I should have asked him back then specifically about which weekend because since that day, a couple of weekends have already passed. When he came, I won't say I was delighted to see him. You see, I don't share a good relationship with him since our childhood. But I still welcomed him thinking that now we are grown-ups and things would have changed. But my assumptions about him were so wrong. And just because I let him in that day, I have to go through all of this drama that is happening at my house nowadays. As I don't like to discuss family problems with my friends or colleagues, I thought it would be better to rant out my thoughts with you guys here on this platform instead. So, it all started when I got a message from my younger brother about one of the interviews that was scheduled here in New York. By the way, I'm from Springfield and left my family and moved to Brooklyn when I was 22. My brother, on the other hand, was staying at my parents' until now. My brother is not someone who has any self-respect at all. He doesn't understand the responsibilities until now. I don't know the exact reason, but I think it's because of my mother who always supports and pampers him, even after all the wrong that he has done. So, when I received his text about an interview, I thought he must be searching for a reason to make his life better. But, deep down, I still wasn't sure whether to believe him or not in the first place, so I didn't reply to his text. Little did I know that he was already on his way to my place. His arrival was so sudden that I couldn't just figure out how to react to it, and before I knew it, he was already in my house. I thought he would be giving his interview and soon leaving my apartment, but I was so wrong. He gave the interview and got the job as well, but he said that he would prefer to stay with me for a few more days before he finds a suitable apartment for him. He also mentioned that he'll be contributing to my house rent and groceries until he finds a place. I agreed to it as I was going through some financial crises. I lost a big amount in the stock market quite recently, and it would be a big help to me if I get a little financial support from him. I wasn't aware that just to have that contribution, I have to deal with his nuisance. Now, let me tell you why it is difficult to be with my brother in the same house. He is one of those irritating side characters in TV soaps who don't have any identity of their own, can easily be influenced, and can create trouble in any peaceful and pleasant situation. Well, that's how my brother is. He may look like a grown man, but he's still an idiot who makes silly mistakes like school-going teenagers. All day after grinding my butt off at work, when I come home, I expect my house to bring me joy and peace. But since the day this little piece of crap has arrived in my home, I don't think I've had even a single day without any chaos. I miss my me time. I miss my clean house and kitchen sink without the dirty dishes. And above all, I miss the peace of mind I used to have. Since the day he arrived, I haven't seen my living room without his used socks on the floor. He always makes sure to leave the couch messy with Doritos on it and the table filled with his empty beer bottles. To him, I'm a full-time nurse who is paying for the groceries and home where he is staying, and also a maid who is clearing all his mess without making any fuss about it. If all this wasn't enough, he has picked up a new hobby to make my life more miserable, and that is, he never turns off the lights when not in use. When I confronted him in this regard, I was speechless to hear the reason behind not turning off the electricity. Well, according to him, turning switches on and off can damage the switchboard, so my brother is doing me a favor by keeping everything on 24/7. Yeah, right, that's the theory my 27-year-old brother gave me. Sometimes, I wonder how he is even surviving at work with an IQ as low as a kindergarten kid. This is also one of the reasons I see no point in discussing anything with him, because he comes with such a nonsense logic with so much confidence that it makes me even more pissed off at him. I've tried everything in my power to make him leave my house, but he always comes up with a new deadline and assures me this time he would leave. The thing is, how much ever I hate his presence, just throwing him out on the streets seems too harsh. I'm in a dilemma. I seriously have no idea what I did to deserve this in the first place. Pack his things for him and leave them outside. Change the locks on the door. There you go. You've just helped him move out. Update 1. Thanks for all the suggestions to get rid of my brother. Some of them were really funny to crack me up. In the last few days, I have noticed a few things about my brother which made me suspect his behavior. He had left so many clues, which leads to a theory that he is doing all of this purposefully to take revenge on me. Okay, some of you commented in my last post asking about the bitter past I share with my brother. Actually, I and my brother were not close growing up because my mother used to take his stand even in situations where he should have corrected his behavior. I still remember how I used to cry in the background, hiding myself so that nobody saw what I was going through. Not once, but there have been several instances where my brother put me into a spot of humiliation. There are countless memories, like how he used to let our dog purposely destroy my homework so that I get punished at school, or how he mysteriously placed chewing gum on my pillow at night that later stuck to my scalp and I had to get rid of my hair and ruined all my chances to get picked up from prom, or pushing me off the cliff on our monthly adventure hike. He was sure mean and a bully. He had not just tortured me mentally, but also never left any chances to fight me physically. Since childhood, he used to pick fights on silly topics. When I looked at our situation, I don't see any big change in his behavior. I seriously have dealt with some real crap, all because of my brother. I know you must be wondering why I had to go through so much even after being the elder child. Well, that's because my Dumbo brother was smart enough to use his age to work in his favor. And how can I ignore the fact that my mother doesn't really want a reason to support my brother? He's always been her favorite child and a sweet baby boy. I used to ask myself what wrong I had done to deserve all of this from my mother. And what is that thing that my mother sees in my younger brother that I'm failing to see? Back then, I wasn't old enough to understand that it doesn't have to do anything with our behavior. I was just a victim of gender discrimination by my own mother. It took me years to heal that trauma, and it looks like I'm, again, heading to the same misfortune that happened to me in the past. Torturing me for all these years was not enough for him. He came hunting for me to ruin my love life. I'm actually dating a guy from the last 1 year. A few months back, I shared this with my mother. I think he is here because back in school he had a crush on a girl who broke up with him due to some reason. My brother blames me for that because he thinks I badmouthed about him to that girl. That's not true at all. It is a different story altogether. Now, when he got to know that I'm in a serious relationship, maybe he's here to take his revenge. I may be speculating this, but I strongly feel he is troubling me on purpose. I know it's a pathetic excuse to cause all the trouble, but I told you how he picks silly reasons to fight since childhood, right? Well, I think his age is growing, and not his brain. Whatever the reason is, but I still don't wish to see him here anymore. I seriously have had enough of him. From doing his dirty laundry to cleaning his room, I've done enough for him as a big sister. I don't know when this drama in my life will end, but my troublesome brother will leave my apartment. He said he would be joining work in the next 1 week, and I'm hoping he would move out after that. But if he doesn't, I don't know what I'm going to do. You absolutely shouldn't have cleaned up after him or his laundry. Throw his dirty laundry in the garbage and put all his dirty dishes in his room. Put your foot down. Doing these things only enables him and his behavior. Update 2. My life is filled with never-ending chaos and I have no idea how to end it. I know it's still not long enough to write yet another update, but this is the only place where I get a little clarity about things from your perspective. And something really big has happened and I don't exactly know how to react to it. I think my brother has made up his mind to F my mental peace, because he has given me countless reasons to hate him one after another. He crossed all his limits and left me with no choice but to come here again and rant out my frustration. After the last update, after hearing from you guys, I thought of confronting my brother and asked very politely if he needed any help with his new apartment hunt. I told him how I was feeling frustrated and irritated even at work because of his presence at my home. I thought he would have some self-respect and would leave after hearing all this. But I forgot how dumb he can pretend just to make things work in his favor. He literally ignored my conversation and asked me to move to another corner as he was watching a show on the TV. When I turned off the TV to get his attention, he took his phone and pretended to talk to someone and left the room. This was not once, but multiple times. Whenever I tried talking to him about moving out, he acted dumb and busy and started doing something on his phone or laptop. But above all these, he did something very terrible, and now I'm losing my real crap. So last week, I got to know that we were facing some shortage of staff at the hospital, so I was supposed to be working some extra hours. To make things easy for me, I told Mike that I'll be staying at my boyfriend's place as it is near to the hospital, and it will save me some commute time. I asked specifically and strictly to take care of my house in my absence and not create any issues. But how can he sleep peacefully without creating any problems for me? On the day of my overtime, my boyfriend came to pick me up. He knows about my traumatic relationship with my brother, so he tried his best to lighten up my mood. When I reached home, I was in tears because he had made all the arrangements to have a candlelight dinner with me. It has been 2 months since I last saw such a clean house and kitchen after my work. Although it was a different house, I was still happy that at least I'd be having some good and peaceful time after a long shift at work. We were just chilling out when I received a call from the police station. It was Mike. He said he had been arrested and he wanted me to help him. I couldn't believe my ears. I started yelling at him for being such a pain in the butt all the time. He apologized and asked me to help him one last time. He said he got into trouble with my neighbor who called the police on him. I turned towards my boyfriend and asked him to help, as he was a lawyer himself. He said not to worry and insisted I go back to my place to check with the neighbors as to what had happened. He headed to the police station to understand the matter and arrange bail for my brother. While going back home, I won't lie, but I was shaking with anger and anxiety. Out of all the days, he chose this one day to F everything up when I was finally having a little peace of mind with my boyfriend. When I reached my home, I was shocked to see the sight. Looking at the scene, I could bet that my brother was partying before his arrest. The whole living room was a mess filled with party poppers, half-eaten donuts, junk food, and empty beer cans and whiskey bottles. That day, I got to know a few unknown things about my brother, like his favorite condom flavor and drug choices, because I found some unused syringes. I even saw some blood stains right outside my main door. I don't know what on earth he was doing at that party. I cleared all the mess in the living room and kitchen first and constantly asked myself why I was dealing with this nuisance until now. The next morning was hectic. When I went outside to clean those bloodstains, my neighbor's wife, who was an aged but very kind lady, started yelling at me for no reason. When I confronted her, I got to know the reason behind her anger. It was her husband, whose blood I was cleaning from my door. I wanted to know more about it, but the lady was extremely upset with me because of my brother. She refused to talk to me. At that moment, I got a call from my boyfriend, and he explained everything to me that had happened last night. He told me that my brother had thrown a party in my absence and the volume of the music was high, so my neighbor came and requested him to reduce the volume, but Mike was under alcohol influence and he started abusing my neighbor. When my neighbor reciprocated, my brother couldn't take it and hit the old man straight on his nose, and it started bleeding. I was so pissed after hearing this. For a moment, I felt like telling my boyfriend to leave him as it is and go home, but then I thought I could send him home instead after his bail. My boyfriend asked me to talk to my neighbors and convince them of the settlement. I told my boyfriend to get the paperwork done. Meanwhile, I went to the old couple with some fruits and flowers and convinced them for the settlement. I also paid for their treatment. I told my boyfriend to tell my brother I would only provide him bail if he agreed to move out of my house. My brother didn't say anything about moving out and just insisted that I bail him out. I asked my boyfriend to leave him alone and let him rot in jail. But little did I know that my brother had other plans. He called my mother from jail and asked her to convince me. My mother was smart. She knew that I wouldn't agree even if she requested, so she made my father do it instead. She was well aware that it was my father who supported me in my toughest times, and I would never turn down his request. My father called and asked me to let my brother live for one last 20 days, and after that, he will make sure that he leaves my place. I had no other choice but to agree because I couldn't let my father down. Then, I had to bail out that monster and tolerate him for another 20 days. It's just 3 days of his bail. 17 more days to go. Honestly, you did it to yourself. You should have left him in there. If your parents wanted him out bad enough, they could have bailed him out themselves. Update 3. They say you never know what is in the future. So true. Because after my last update, I thought I wouldn't have anything to share with you guys on the same issue. But I was so wrong. My brother has crossed all his limits in these last few days. I hope you guys remember how I made a deal with him that he'll be leaving my house within 20 days. Well, those 20 days were no less than a nightmare for me, because I got to see a side of my brother that I wasn't aware of until now. I noticed that many things from my house were disappearing. At first, I thought I must be misplacing them, but when I lost my diamond ring worth $30,000, I understood instantly that it was something else. When I checked my in-house CCTV footage, I saw that when I was making the dough for my pancake, I removed my ring and kept it on the kitchen counter. And when I was busy on a call, my brother came inside the kitchen to get the water, and along with the water, he took my ring as well. I was stunned to see this, because until now I thought Mike was doing those petty things to annoy me, but now he had crossed all his limits and he was turning into a criminal. I wanted to confront him, but I thought there was yet another week, so it would be awkward for me to stay with him at the same house after that. So I was just careful with my belongings after that. One more thing that I had noticed was that he was avoiding somebody's call, and I even heard him yelling at someone on the phone. I don't love him, but deep down I felt that he was in some sort of big trouble. I won't say that I didn't feel anything, because seeing him seriously and stealing things from my house was an alarming situation for me as well. I shared the situation with my boyfriend, and he asked me to take a few days off work and stay home to keep an eye on his activities. This is one of the best decisions that I took in those days. When I was home, I noticed that there were some dudes, the same age as my brother, who used to come and meet Mike every day. I even saw my brother giving them some of the things that he had stolen. They used to threaten him for some money. I knew something was fishy, and I had to confront him before it was too late. My boyfriend came over because I was feeling unsafe to have any confrontation with Mike alone, especially after I saw him stealing. We had the recording, so there was no way he could deny it. Upon confrontation, I got to know that Mike was involved in some sort of drug dealing, and that day of the party, he was planning to distribute all the drugs in one go. But when he saw police coming to his door, he flushed everything in fear of cops. Now those dudes who visit him every day are asking for money or drugs. That is the reason he was stealing my things and giving it to them. I was horrified after hearing that, because I never knew he would end up in a situation like this. I was so furious that I wanted to punch him, but my boyfriend came in between us and held me. I told Mike to call those boys because I didn't want to face any problems after he left. He thought I would be giving all the money, so without wasting a minute, he called them. When they arrived, I told them about the situation that was created at Mike's party. I told them that I didn't have any money to give them, but I did have the CCTV footage to give the police. After hearing all of their faces turning pale, I told them that Mike would be leaving the same day, and after his departure, if I saw any of them in my area, I would be heading straight to the police station with the footage of them selling drugs to my brother. They were infuriated. They asked Mike to come outside for a second, and before any of us could react, they punched him hard in his face and left. I won't say I enjoyed watching him bleed, but I think it was important for him to learn his lesson. While leaving, they yelled at Mike that they would hunt him down wherever he goes. I don't think they are coming back to my house knowing that I have evidence against them, but they are definitely going to hunt down Mike. I asked Mike to pack his bags and move out ASAP. My boyfriend used the opportunity to scare him of those bad boys and insisted Mike to go back to our hometown instead of working here in New York City. Although he never listened to me this time, he agreed and left. After he left, I called my dad and told him everything. I also leashed out on my anger against my mom and how she has spoiled him, and now all of us are suffering. He said he would be sending him to rehab and would also deal with Mom. Good for them. I don't care now. I don't want to say all this is your fault, but you sort of walked right into this one the moment you let him in your house. And of that, your house is now associated with drugs and totally the wrong crowd. I think you only have yourself to blame for this one, OP. What are your thoughts? Thank you for following along today in the R Lounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to share regarding today's content, we want to hear it. Until next time.